This is RTV6 News at 11, working for you.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Nicole Griffin. We begin first with the developing situation involving transportation for thousands of children who attend Indianapolis public schools. In a statement just into the RTV6 newsroom tonight, IPS is telling families that they are not confident the district will be able to run regular school bus routes in a safe and efficient manner tomorrow morning. IPS says they have a plan in place for the current number of drivers who have called off, but if any additional drivers who choose to call off overnight, it would make that coverage no longer feasible. And a final update will be sent out to families by 5:30 tomorrow morning. The statement says that the school will remain open. All schools will remain open tomorrow, but they are urging families to make alternate plans like carpooling with other IPS families or taking public transportation. They say they recognize this is a disruption to families, and they have partnered with Indigo, who is providing free rides to all IPS students. Bus passes are not needed for students. They simply need to tell Indigo bus drivers that they attend IPS. Our Rafael Sanchez sat down with IPS Superintendent Alicia Johnson on Friday to talk specifically about these plans for Monday morning.
On Monday, the hope would be that everyone's back to work and it's business as usual, but we are planning for that worst case scenario so that, again, we can communicate to families and they have the ability to get ready if they need to be thinking about something different.
The district says it understands that change is hard, further saying when they partnered with First Student, when that partnership was approved in January, their team met with AFSCME union leadership to discuss the process for a smooth transition. Efforts have been made, according to IPS, that include compensation bonuses up to $2,000 for employees who maintain strong attendance until the end of the year. And today we spoke with drivers who were not comfortable going on camera out of fears that they could lose their jobs. We asked if they thought there would be bus services tomorrow, and they say that is to be determined depending on how many drivers call off. They tell us they want families to know that they did not call off on Friday as a protest, but instead they are using earned paid time off. Some of the drivers we talked to say the time was pre-planned. They say they want families to know that they do care about the students. On Friday, we talked to the council president who represents area unions.
Every kid that's not picked up is possibly missing a meal. In some cases, left at home by themselves. We absolutely do not support kids not being picked up, but there's a flip side. And I think the flip side from the bus drivers is they're frustrated. They're, it's confused. They're a little bit hurt. They also got worries. Most of the bus drivers are single parents, so I can see that the frustration level has obviously hit a high.
If IPS is not able to run its bus service tomorrow, that means hundreds of students that rely on meal services from their school will not get those meals. IPS says meal services will be offered at school as normal tomorrow. On Friday, the bus driver call-out impacted 22,000 kids who rely on bus services. Only around 14,000 students actually made it to school on Friday. The superintendent says knowing that the call-offs impacted their ability to not only get their education, angers her.
I don't believe that folks would set out to intentionally hurt our students, but the reality is there is a hurtful impact when that decision was made. And so there's no getting away from the fact that there were a number of students negatively impacted as it relates to their ability to access food.
And we are checking in with IPS and the very latest on this situation and what parents should know ahead of Monday. We will keep you updated when that announcement is made tomorrow morning. And they are still assessing that situation. We will keep you updated, of course. And we are also getting reaction tonight from parents. We posted a poll on the RTV6 Facebook page to see how parents are feeling and what plans they are making tomorrow. We asked if you have a child who rides an IPS bus, what are your thoughts on the district's announcement to find alternative plans for transportation? We had one response saying they have no way of getting their oldest to school tomorrow. Another says, even if I take my child, I have to pick her up afterward. Where am I supposed to go to work in that time frame? And finally, another person says they plan to leave their kids at home because they have to go to work. We will, of course, keep you updated on this developing story. Now we want to get your Storm Team 6 forecast. Meteorologist Kyle Mount standing by. Kyle, a beautiful Sunday.
Yeah, Nicole, it really was this afternoon as temperatures surged in many locations into the 60s, and we're still very mild out there tonight, close to 60 degrees in Bloomington at 58, 53 in downtown, and even around Kokomo and Peru we're in the lower 50s. But you notice that rain is starting to overspread the area. Had one shower downtown, now still around the Beach Grove and Southport areas. That's crossing I-74 and will continue to move off to the east. But look at this. We've actually got some lightning flashes there around Rockville into the Crawfordsville area. May have heard a few rumbles of thunder out there as well. The rain will continue to increase in coverage, and it looks like it'll be fairly soggy as you go out first thing in the morning. But notice already by 9 o'clock, we're starting to see those showers tapering off. It is going to be all rain. We don't have to worry about any icy conditions, though, with temperatures starting the day in the upper 40s.
Kyle, thank you. The Democratic field for president is smaller tonight. South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg is suspending his campaign. He made the announcement just a short time ago in his hometown.
Our goal has always been to help unify Americans, to defeat Donald Trump, and to win the era for our values. And so we must recognize that at this point in the race, the best way to keep faith with those goals and ideals is to step aside and help bring our party and our country together. So tonight, I am making the difficult decision to suspend my campaign for the presidency.
Meanwhile, the remaining candidates are getting ready for Super Tuesday. Here's ABC's Rachel Scott with those details.
Former Vice President Joe Biden with a decisive victory in South Carolina's primary amid strong support from African-American voters.
This is a matter of addition, not subtraction. And so we're attracting more and more people. We're adding more competent people, additional people.
Senator Bernie Sanders accusing Biden of ignoring the voters who could help lead the way to defeating President Trump in November.
To beat Trump, we are going to need the largest voter turnout in the history of this country. And I don't think you can do that unless you have a message that appeals to the working class and the middle class of this country who have been ignored too long by the political establishment, of which Joe Biden is part of.
With less than 2 days until Super Tuesday, the candidates have packed their schedules. In Selma, Alabama, Biden marking the anniversary of the Bloody Sunday massacre at a wreath-laying ceremony.
Let's recognize a moment of silence.
And both Biden and former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg speaking at the historic Brown Chapel AME Church, some turning their backs as Bloomberg spoke. Mayor Pete Buttigieg and Senators Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar all taking part in the reenactment of the Selma Bridge crossing. Voters in 14 states will head to the polls on Tuesday. More than 1,300 delegates are up for grabs on this one day, more than a third of those needed to win the nomination. The Sanders campaign announcing on Sunday it raised more than $46 million in February. That money being spent on ads in states that will hold their primaries later this month.
Rachel Scott, ABC News, Norfolk, Virginia.
Rachel, thank you. Dashcam video catches a chase that ended with the arrest of a robbery suspect in Monroe County. Monroe County Sheriff's deputies were looking for the suspect near State Road 45 and South Harmony Road early Saturday morning. The suspect led deputies on a chase after a deputy tried to stop the minivan the suspect was driving. Deputies used a spike to deflate the tires on the minivan. The man continued driving for about a mile before running away. Deputies eventually caught him. They say he had items in his possession that were stolen during a robbery in Seymour in Jackson County. A traffic alert tonight. The next phase of construction for the State Road 37 project in Fishers is now underway. Phase 3 of work at the 126th Street and State Road 37 intersection includes closing the west side of 126th Street. It will remain closed until July. The third phase of construction will include the excavation of the intersection and construction of the bridge on 126th Street. During this time, drivers will not have cross access and all left turns will be restricted. State Road 37 will not close during this phase, but southbound traffic will shift to the northbound lanes and 2 lanes will remain open in each direction. You can still access nearby businesses from Lantern Road.
For the traffic, they just need to keep their eyes open and be aware and slow down through all the traffic. Potentially take different routes, plan times at different times of day when it's not as busy.
To get around this area, use 116th Street or 131st Street to Allisonville Road. The entire goal of this project is to reduce congestion and improve safety along State Road 37 in Fishers and Noblesville by replacing signalized intersections with raised roundabouts and separated interchanges. Tonight, a domestic violence survivor is sharing her latest mission to give back to other women in our community. And this is all about providing them with a new pair of shoes. Daniette Smith is the founder of Silent No More. She's planning an event called Walk It Out Women's Wellness Shoe Explosion. Registration just opened today for the event on April 25th. Smith will be giving out 350 pairs of brand new shoes. Shoes that will help women feel confident. Shoes they can walk into their next job interview wearing. She started Silent No More after getting out of a relationship in 2014 where she was experiencing domestic violence. And since then, she aims to provide awareness, prevention, and education on domestic violence and teen dating abuse.
Didn't have anyone like me. I didn't know anyone who was going through domestic violence. When I got out in 2014, there was no one on Facebook talking about domestic violence that was very transparent with it. So I knew that being in their shoes, that I would be able to help them the same way I needed help.
And this is the first year for the event hosted by Silent No More, but Smith says there is already a lot of excitement. There will not only be free shoes, but there will also be wellness booths, and the health department will be there for screenings. You can register online right now on Eventbrite. It's being held on April 25th at the Event Center at Holy Angels Church on West 28th Street. It happens every 10 years. Yes, it is census time. Up next, why it is so important for you to be counted.
The 2020 Ultima.
This is RTV6 News at 11, working for you.
There are big bucks on the line for families in need and the community organizations that serve them. Troy Washington is working for you to explain why it is so important to get an accurate count as families get ready to complete Census 2020.
The federal government allocates $675 billion towards social efforts, things such as housing, education.
As the CEO of the Indianapolis Urban League, Tony Mason knows the difference a U.S. Census undercount could make.
We probably help somewhere in the area of 400 to 500 families with emergency rent and utility assistance. You know, most of those dollars come through FEMA funds. So we're talking about federal funds.
He's looking at it from the perspective of being a person at the helm of helping in the city. He knows there's a great need and that the only way to keep giving back is to make sure an accurate count reflects the real need.
If we experience an undercount, then it will affect funding for vital programs and services, not only here in Indianapolis, but across our entire state. Everything from Medicaid, SNAP, WIC, all sorts of public assistance programs will then be underfunded.
He thinks there's some misconceptions when it comes to minorities and completing the census form. And he wants people to know the information stays private for at least 7 decades. And it won't be released to police or immigration and customs enforcement.
Necessary, it is vital, it is hugely important.
On April 1st, the census is expected to be completed. The head of the household must include everyone living inside of the home. Mason can't stress enough what could happen if everyone isn't counted in.
We put the census count, it's right there with voting in each election and at every level of government.
If forms are not completed by April 1st, the Census Bureau will follow up in person in an effort to get the most accurate count possible. Working for you, Troy Washington, RTV6.
Troy, thank you. When you think about endangered species, you might think of birds, reptiles, or mammals. But here in the U.S., there are hundreds of endangered or threatened plants. As Maya Rodriguez tells us, there is one place where the efforts to save them span centuries.
Amid the bright orchids inside this conservatory,
so watch your step as you're coming down,
sits a 200-year history of protecting America's most fragile plants.
So we're a living repository for rare and endangered plants.
This is the U.S. Botanic Garden, the oldest one in the country, and an idea envisioned by George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. It's about to celebrate its 200th year. 60,000 plants line within several acres in the heart of Washington, D.C. Conservation here is always in season.
And many of our plants are rare and endangered, and we are providing a home for them.
Here in the U.S., there are 1,300 species that are considered threatened or endangered. Nearly 20% of those are plants, adding up to hundreds of flora on the brink. Some already fell off the cliff, like this one in the garden, Hawaii's cabbage on a stick. Because of overdevelopment, the insect that pollinated it disappeared. And in 2014, the plant went extinct in the wild too. And there are others endangered too, like this cactus from Arizona and these bushes, which are native to Florida. But endangered plants don't always get the kind of attention endangered animals do.
Often people do think about animals. They have faces and they're sort of cute. So I think people generally can sort of sympathize with them a little bit more than maybe with a plant that they're not familiar with.
But at the garden, they emphasize how much plants are tied to the habitat of endangered animals, at risk from invasive species, development, and climate change.
They're really interconnected. And so I think plants are a fundamental part of conserving environments and conserving habitats. And if you just focus on conserving the animals, you're leaving out a huge part of the equation in terms of the plants.
That all adds up to a continuing mission of saving plants here, in the hopes of one day taking those that are now extinct outside these walls and reintroducing them back to Mother Nature. In Washington, D.C., I'm Maya Rodriguez reporting.
And pretty soon, the plants are going to be blooming here across central Indiana, and March is off to a very nice start with those mild temperatures this afternoon and still sitting in the 50s. You notice we're dry right now in Indianapolis, Kokomo, and Bloomington. We still have that breezy south wind, but we also have some rain that's increasing in coverage here. And as we work our way from Boone County around Thorntown, just southeast of Crawfordsville and back into Rockville, even a few flashes of lightning and rumbles of thunder. No severe weather for us tonight, but you may get a quick downpour out of that. Got some more showers moving into Columbus, out of Nashville, and around Bloomington. So here's a look at TrueCast. We go into tomorrow morning. You're going to need that umbrella and the windshield wipers working in good order here, as we'll have fairly widespread rain through the morning rush. Then as we get into the lunch hour, things are starting to improve. We'll have a few residual showers, but they should be very light and scattered, and then starting to dry out into the afternoon. So the rainfall moving through pretty quickly. You get under one of those thunderstorms, you may pick up a quick burst of some rain, but otherwise most areas a third of an inch or less is what we're expecting in the rainfall department. And here's a look at Monday, and our temperatures, they won't warm as much as what we had today. They'll stay fairly steady, but still mild and a little bit above average as we make it to 50 in Muncie, 53 in Indy, and 54 in Columbus. And there are signs that this warmth is going to continue through the month of March. Brand new month, and we got the new monthly outlook here calling for above average temperatures. And there you can see we rise. By the end of the month, our average high is approaching 60 degrees. Well, we also know it's been a pretty soggy period for us. It looks like that may continue as well. The outlook for much of central Indiana is for above average and generally in the order of rainfall, especially when we combine it with that temperature outlook. Next 7 days of the forecast, not a whole lot of rain though. After we get rid of that system early on Monday, pretty dry stretch, maybe a spotty shower here or there. Temperatures will continue to top out in the 50s right through Thursday afternoon. A little bit cooler heading into the start of next weekend.
Looks like a good start to March so far. So good.
Yeah, not a lot of rain and warmer temperatures.
All right, Kyle, thank you. Well, just a day after the first coronavirus-related death in the U.S. was confirmed, another state announces its first case of the virus. And tonight, health officials warn more infections are expected.
Toyota, let's go places.
The latest now on the coronavirus outbreak. Today, Rhode Island announced a presumptive positive test result for the virus. Here's ABC's Kaylee Hartung with the latest on the COVID-19 outbreak.
Rhode Island reporting its first presumptive positive case of COVID-19 on Sunday, a patient who traveled to Italy in mid-February.
We have been preparing for weeks for this eventuality, and we have an excellent plan in place. So the message is, be careful and be vigilant, but don't panic.
Newly discovered cases in California and Oregon among people who haven't traveled internationally or had close contact with people known to have the virus have some health experts worrying COVID-19 may be spreading through West Coast communities. In Washington state, 2 more cases confirmed on Sunday. On Saturday, the governor declaring a state of emergency after the first known novel coronavirus death in the U.S. at a Seattle hospital. A man in his late 50s with underlying health conditions. He had no known travel abroad. A few miles away, warnings of a potential outbreak at a nursing care facility. 2 people testing positive, while dozens more are showing symptoms and now being tested. The Trump administration is looking to reassure Americans.
The risk to any individual American's low. We're seeing some community spreading, but they've got the finest public health system in the world and the finest public health experts.
As the number of cases in Italy and South Korea continue to increase, Americans are being warned to avoid travel to certain areas. Delta, United, and American Airlines have already suspended all flights to and from mainland China and Hong Kong, and are now canceling flights to Milan, where cases of the virus have soared, and offering travel waivers to Italy. In France, officials have banned many large public gatherings, and the famed Louvre Museum has closed its doors on Sunday amid fears the flow of visitors from around the world could spread the virus. Kaylee Hartung, ABC News, Seattle.
$39 a month at your local Mercedes-Benz dealer.
We've told you how scammers are getting more high-tech, turning to voice cloning to try to get your personal information and your money. Now students at college campuses are learning about the latest technology to better understand how to prevent it. Annie Taylor has the story.
Move over facial recognition and make way for voice cloning technology.
I will be able to make you speak anything I want.
Voice cloning is the next way some are hoping to deceive you.
Fraud has and will continue to be committed this way.
Voice cloning captures the essence of your voice.
Capture intonation, tones rising and falling, and even if you go deeper or higher or any of those sorts of things, your voice is still your voice.
Hackers clone voices of people you know and then use that fake voice to call you and scam you into giving up personal information and even money. The latest AI technology is now being studied at colleges across the country.
I record some of your voice. It could be picked up from anywhere online if you have anything recorded, or just from conversation or phone call, and then you clone the voice.
Student Alexander Lubomirov says downloading voice cloning software takes some online work, but it's not tough for a tech-savvy person to do. But we're not going to show you the exact steps.
Everything is open. Everything is online.
Alexander took a clip of me speaking off my YouTube channel.
If you're new here, my name's Annie.
And placed it in the voice cloning program. And a few seconds later,
I am not a fake voice. Generated a couple minutes ago. Please believe me. I kind of sound like a Valley girl.
Now, I might not think it sounds like me.
It's not meant to trick you.
Yeah. It's just supposed to be close enough where it could trick someone from your extended family. Voice cloning is not all bad. Metro State University of Denver computer science professor Steve Beatty says voice cloning is another form of authentication, or it's a way to send a voice text. It can even help give a voice to those who have lost the ability to speak. With every new technology to hit the market, we have to weigh the security hazards and the convenience it provides. I'm Annie Taylor reporting.
Annie, thank you. Remember, if something sounds fishy, it probably is. And if someone is asking for your personal information or money, ask questions that you and your family only know the answers to. Incredible video out of New York where some homes are completely encased in ice. These waterfront homes are on Lake Erie in Hamburg, and all of this ice is the result of 2 straight days of gale-force winds and freezing temperatures.
That's cold.
I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, and fortunately, we're not going to have to deal with any wintry weather. Now, you may hear a couple rumbles of thunder here as we go through tonight. We're going to have that rain into tomorrow morning. Bit of a soggy start to our Monday.
All right, Kyle, thank you. Have a great night.